Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. I am your host, David, and today I am joined by somebody off of the Twitterverse. I have been following them for a while, at least over 3 years, maybe even 4 years at this point. It's hard to keep track of what goes on in Twitter. It's so fast moving. But I have Anne, aka Girl Wonder, joining me today. Anne, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a long time in the works, and I'm so glad to finally get to sit down and have a conversation with you.
I know it has been something where I try and keep track of like how I follow people or like where I stumbled across them, and it works well on Instagram because I can at least like scroll back and be like, oh well, I liked this picture or I like this thing. But on Twitter it's so fast moving and there's so much stuff going on. I can never remember like how I found people at this point, but we've been following each other mutually for like I said, at least three, if not longer, years of going on, most likely from tabletop role playing because we overlap in that fandom, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, like, there comes a certain point in my following someone on Twitter where it's just like, I feel like I've just been following you forever. I don't really remember where it started, but I'm glad that it's still going. That's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, the only downside is that as like I don't know what happens, but I start not seeing people on Twitter, and I'm like, well, let me go to their page and make sure they're still active. Yes, they're still active, but Twitter's not showing me what they're posting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that has to do with some kind of algorithm situation or Twitter just unfollowing people at certain point, because it happened to me a couple of times recently where like, oh crap, I thought I was following you. I definitely was following you like, months ago. What happened here? So, it's not a perfect technology by any means.
Nope, but it's what we got, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on your outlook of life, I guess.
Oh, it also depends on what comes through your feed,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. And, as much as people will preach, curating your feed and, muting and blocking and unfollowing and all of those things, no matter how much curating of your feed you do, there's always going to be things that are less desirable.
Exactly, and even with Twitter, random off topic, non fandom thing is that even like trying to curate your feed takes hours upon hours of like clicking on those people and scrolling through and seeing what they're sharing and what they're commenting on, and it's like it just takes so long to do. It is wild to me sometimes when I'm trying to do it and I'm like I'm done. I cannot click on any more people's things right now.
And for me, too, part of how I use Twitter is that I like to throw my follow onto things that are, like, super cool, even if I can't, either consume their stream live or, necessarily keep up with the podcast on a regular basis, but I'm like, I also wanted the accounts that I follow to kind of show a snapshot of these are the cool things I support, even if I, can't consume all the things at once. Or, I'm not always up to date with the content, but I still wanted a kind of symbolic gesture of my support, if that makes sense. So I'll have a ton of things that I follow, Twitter accounts that I follow, to boost their numbers, because I think they should, have the numbers. But also to say, if you look at the accounts that I follow, these are the things I support,
Right, exactly. Now we're here to talk fandom today, and we'll be definitely talking about tabletop role playing games later on in the podcast. But there's a fandom that you and I both enjoy, although I've definitely not seen it recently. But you are into Power Rangers.
Oh my goodness. So, Power Rangers actually, I can safely say, was my original fandom. As in, like, it was my fandom before I knew what fandoms were.
Now, how did you first get into Power Rangers? Like, what was it about Power Rangers that drew you to it?
I think, for me, it was the era of, Saturday morning cartoons and, the kid content that was on specifically, directed at me. And it was one of those things where me and my brother, we would hang out, we'd watch things like Ninja Turtles or Transformers or, whatever happened to be, popular cartoons at the time, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Mm-hmm.
We liked cartoons. It was our main form of entertainment. And my brother, who's 3 years younger than me, he and I watched a lot of stuff together, and that's how we bonded. And at first it was just like, oh, this is a passing thing that was in a commercial. Superheroes. Hey, look, bright colors, And it was just marketed towards me as a kid, and I was just like, oh, cool, superheroes. I was not a very girly girl as a child. I mean, I had Barbies, I did those things, but I also really liked Ninja Turtles and superheroes. Like, I would sometimes just take my brother's G.I. Joe or his Stretch Armstrong toy and, like, hide it, because I was like, I'm gonna put my Barbies aside and just play with this toy because my brother's playing with it and I want to play with it. Just really silly kid stuff. But then when Power Rangers came on the air, it was something we could share. And it was a team of heroes. So we had our own, Power Ranger action figures, Power Ranger dolls, and I didn't feel the need to steal my brother's toy. So, like, I mean, I liked girly things, but when I got sick of it, when I got bored of it, I was like, superheroes. So I think maybe a part of it was just because I had superheroes that I could enjoy now.
Mm-hmm.
And that people would buy me toys for, because as much as I hate to, speak to this, I grew up as a kid in an era where it was like girl toys, boy toys, right? So
Right.
Power Rangers is like, hey, look, there's girl superheroes. I can have a superhero toy now,
That's
so
right.
that was also part of it. And then it was just like a thing that I started watching my little brother.
Now, out of curiosity, like, was it the original Power Rangers, or was it like Power Rangers in space, or like what Power Rangers did you get into?
I actually came into it from the original. I was going into second grade when it came out. It was the summer of 94 when it came out.
I think it's like 93 or 94,
93.
somewhere around there.
Okay, no, it was that actually makes sense. Sorry, 93. Numbers are hard. It was going into second grade.
Tales from the Fandom is not a math podcast. We do not number here. I got into Power Rangers at the same, original Power Rangers. I was in high school at the time, so I remember when it came on, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. I dig this," and and then from there, I watched I remember watching like the original series and then the movies, and then after a while, I stopped, and then I got back in later, and then I stopped again. Did you, like, once you got into Power Rangers, was that your jam from it being on like continuously?
Okay, so about that, being a kid growing up in Canada, when I had first watched the original series, we had a local station, Canadian station that would air the show. Good old YTV. Shout out to the Canadian listeners if y'all know what that is. YTV used to air the original Power Rangers, and what happened was, I I think maybe the parents thought it was too violent to be shown on YTV.
Because
and,
of course.
You know, there was that whole time period where they had removed Power Rangers from their lineup, and, you know, I got into the whole phone campaigns. We were like, bring Power Rangers back, and I, like, was super hard on it. And at this point, this was just, like, basic cable, so we didn't have any access to American stations. Like, we didn't have access to Fox Kids for a while, so I had actually missed out on a chunk of the Mighty Morphin era, like the entirety of season 3 of that era, and I also missed out on essentially all of Power Rangers Zeo when it was first aired on TV.
Okay.
So, for me, I had wanted it to be like a constant thing, and, you know, I participated in phone campaigns, and, you know, bring Power Rangers back, you know, but in terms of, like, Canadian broadcasting rules, I guess they just said, nope, we're not broadcasting this on a Canadian network, which, if I recall correctly, they have not done. But that's my outdated memories. So I don't know if they have, because they've aired other, like, superhero things on that particular network since, so I can't say for sure, but they definitely had pulled Power Rangers, and they were like, no, that is not happening. And then, I don't know if it was, we just got extra channels on our basic cable, or whatever the situation was. We, got access to Fox. We got access to Fox, the Fox network. Fox Kids, that was, like, the big thing around the, Power Rangers Turbo era.
Okay.
So, I'd seen, back when Blockbuster was still a thing, we had rented the Turbo movie, and then transitioned over to the TV series because we had access to it. And of course, I'm a fan of the, original 1996 movie. You know, it was one of those things that I remember as a core memory, and I distinctly remember going to the movies with my family and my little brother, and thinking that Ivan Ooze was, like, the scariest shit ever. I was 9 when it came out. I was, like, terrified. I was like, oh, dear God, what is happening? I am terrified. I don't like this guy. So, yeah, like, I definitely have very vivid memories of that movie. And yeah, so from Power Rangers Turbo, like, I would call this, like, the preteen era, I guess, where I was, like, in middle school, and I really was super into Power Rangers in space, like everyone else, but also, like, there was something that hit differently for me when they started doing these stories that were contained to each season. You know, like, oh, hey, Zordon's gone now, and, you know, everything's safe on Earth, whatever. That's great. I love that. Countdown to Destruction, forever, like, a classic series finale. But for me, I think that having seasons that were self-contained, that had their stories, like, it really kind of hit with me in a different way, you know, like the storytelling. I really got invested into the story of, you know, this space colony, you know, Terra Venture. Like, what's going to happen to them? And, you know, these magical swords and the people who pulled the swords out of the rock. Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, you know, like that, you know, that whole story I thought was cool. I wasn't very much of a space person back then, but I just thought it was really cool. But for me, I think the season that stands out in that kind of era of my life was actually Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. And my favorite part about this particular series is that I think more than any of the other series, the Rangers themselves felt like real people, you know? You saw the paramedic and the firefighter and the guy who flies planes and does stunts and the mountain climber and the dolphin trainer. And you saw them as very real people. I mean, when I was a kid, I was just like, wow, superheroes, you know?
Right.
They felt very cartoony. But Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue was the first time that I was old enough to kind of understand the series in a different way, you know? Because the story was they were selected to defend Mariner Bay, and they were a part of this Lightspeed project. And they were very human people to me. I couldn't explain to you why, but they just felt like more fully realized characters to me as a 12-year-old. And the other aspect of that was that there was a story in there where, you know, Captain Mitchell lost his son. His son was rescued by a demon. There's that whole, like, aspect of, you know, very real high stakes that, for whatever reason, 12-year-old me was like, oh, damn, that's pretty bad. Oh, wait, no, kid's falling off the cliff. Oh, wait, now there's a demon and he's going to take your kid. And he's all like, yeah, I'll rescue your kid. But you won't get him back until he's 20. You know, like, for me, that resonates for me as a standout Power Rangers season, and I will tell you again and again, like, if you ask me, Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue will always be, like, the top season for me. And I go back to that season when, like, I'm not feeling well, and I don't feel like doing anything, just lounging around. Like, you know, when you're super sick, you can't do anything. I'll just turn it on and revisit it.
Exactly. It's your comfort show.
Yeah, it is my comfort show. That and the original movie, I've definitely watched it several times in this pandemic as a comfort show. You're absolutely right.
I will say that I watched the movie recently, probably within like the last 6 or 7 months, because I remember watching it in high school when it came out. I think I was a senior in high school, and I went and saw it in the movie theater. And, you know, it still has its good parts to it. There's still good things to the movie. And, you know, Power Rangers is still, you know, trucking along as a franchise out there on TV. So it's always something where it's nice to check in on and see what's going on in like the fandom and the shows that they're doing, to see like what they've decided to go with, like storyline wise, or evolving their characters, like you said, because, you know, the original Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin, they had character development, but it wasn't much. It was kind of like if you buttered toast. Like,
so my perspective on that is that they were targeting little kids. Little kids,
course.
they don't necessarily have that wide of an understanding of character development. I mean, I'm pretty sure I remember thinking, ew, they're kissing, gross. You know what I mean? Like, but I also think that in terms of thinking of the evolution of the franchise and the different series, I think they also, maybe in the back of their minds, thought to evolve the stories with the people who were watching and not just target the one demographic. Although it's still really cool for little kids, you know, like I will show Lightspeed Rescue to any little kid and be like, yo, check it out. There's a fire truck and it's a Zord and it saves people, you know? But I think they've done really well to layer a little bit more complexity in future seasons, not to the point that it gets too much for little kids, but
right.
You know, it's the balance of slightly older audience, you know, trying to get new little kids into it.
I totally understand it. Plus, of course, there's, you know, the other side of things where it's like toys. Buy the toys.
The kids love their toys, and I loved my toys too. I had a moment at the mall a few weeks back. It was really recent. It was at a GameStop, and I saw a Lightning collection Morpher, the one that they did the voice recording on it. It was those new Morphers, and I was like, damn. And then there was a Pink Ranger figurine next to it. I'm like, oh man. And I had this flashback moment to when I was a kid. I was like, oh man. So, you know, what they've done with the Lightning collection as well is like, they're like really fancy collector's items, but they also kind of hit your inner child, like, hey, I used to play with something like that when I was a kid. So I'm just like, oh man, they're really good at this. And with Hasbro handling the toys, you know, hey, Hasbro's pretty good at selling toys too, you know?
Exactly. I think we were doing garage cleanup a couple weeks ago, and I came across one of my like original Mighty Morphin figures that I'd still had in, like, I never took it out, so it's still like in package, and I'm like, I wonder if that's worth anything. And you know, I never even bothered to look. It just moved it back in with some other collectibles that I had. I was like, okay, you can just stay there for another, 10 years or so.
I mean, if you are ever inclined and curiosity hits you, I think maybe you should check it out. I do have to ask, though, I mean, I'm sure we could have a whole different conversation about this, because I was very much of the target demographic when, the original Mighty Morphin series came out. Like, what is it like for someone who is a little bit older to kind of come across this cool thing, but also have the awareness that, like, oh, this is definitely marketed towards little kids?
Oh gosh, like number one, like since I grew up in like the 80s, right? So I love things like G.I. Joe and Thundercats, and of course Voltron. So you have like the five lions turning into the giant, essentially, Zord. So when Power Rangers came out, I was like, hey, this is kind of like Voltron, and I'll watch it. And as a ridiculous geeky high school kid, like I used to write fan fiction about Power Rangers, and of course like self-insert myself and like
Yes.
what Power Ranger color would I be, and what would my Zord be. I have no shame. Like I don't think any of that stuff still exists because I was writing it like on paper, so it's most likely gone at this point. But it was something where it was like, it totally was something I would watch on, Saturday morning whenever it came on, but it wasn't something I would be watching religiously because at that point I'm in high school and I got like a part-time job and studies and all that stuff. But it's something where it's interesting to like check in on it, like because I watched it up until like the Turbo movie and a little bit after like the season that came after Turbo, but before Space happened, and then I stopped. I was like, okay, I'm going off to college now. I'll stop watching. And then I picked it back up for like Dino Thunder when Tommy showed back up. I was like, oh, well, I need to check this out. And then because of the power of the internet, I'm finding out like, hey, there's like crossover episodes that they do every season where certain characters just show up. And I'm like, well, now I need to start like checking some of these other seasons out.
Yeah, no, it's really cool what they've done. And I was actually a senior in high school when Dino Thunder came out. So that was like a big deal to me. Because I personally originally was always a Red Ranger fan. I was always like pro Jason. Even when Tommy came in, ooh, Green Ranger, everyone's like, oh, he was so dark and evil and then he became a good guy and everybody
He's so dark
loves
and
Tommy.
mysterious.
Yeah, like everybody loved Tommy, but I was always like, Jason, man, Jason. And like when Tommy became the White Ranger and then he somehow became the leader,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, Jason's the leader? What the hell? I was like, no, this is not okay to me. Not that anybody cared. My brother would just roll his eyes and be like, yeah, no, Tommy, man. I was like, But I had very strong feelings about Jason at the time. I even had very strong feelings when Jason and Zach and Trini left, and then Rocky, Adam, and Aisha came. Like, I had very strong feelings about Rocky. I was like, he wasn't leader material, and I recognize that, but I also, like, he was just a great character. He did not get enough credit for being, like, a really fun character. So yeah, I had feelings about that. I have feelings about Tommy that aren't necessarily like hero worship feelings. Like, he's a great character, but also like explain to me how he became a doctor in paleontology, please. Because if you look back at Tommy's teenage years, he was chronically late for everything. Like, he didn't show signs of being a particularly good student. He might have been average on a good day. Like, if you look at it, like... Also, dinosaurs, where did that come from? Maybe that one part in the original movie where he's, you know, riding a dinosaur skeleton, like, he was in a rodeo or something, but, like... It's just one of those things where it was like... because I'm a storyteller by nature, and I just, you know, stories for me, like, I have to make sense of them. You know, the narrative has to
right, it has
actually
to
make sense for me. I kind of looked at it as a 17-year-old and was like, explain to me how he became a doctor in paleontology? But it was really cool. I guess the fact that he became a high school science teacher was some kind of full circle thing. I don't know. But I do remember, like, seeing in the early days of my discovering the online fandom that he was affectionately nicknamed Technicolor Tommy because he wore, like, how many colors?
Yep. He makes a joke in Dino Thunder. He's like, oh, I guess I've got to get, like, my black clothing because he was like the black. I think, yeah.
He was the Black Ranger.
Yeah, and it's like that's a self-aware joke right there.
I love me a good self-aware joke. Going to share a couple of and facts. Number one, the original Power Rangers movie was the reason I learned how to roller skate. That whole sequence the whole sequence at the beginning with the rollerblading.
Yep.
That was the reason I wanted to learn how to rollerblade and did learn how to rollerblade. I also really love the song that they use in the background for that sequence, and it's my favorite song to this day. It's such a good song. Free Ride.
Okay,
Such a good song. I don't want to get you DMCA'd, so I'm not going to sing it, but it's so good. It's one of my favorite songs of all time.
Well, that soundtrack was really good. I remember buying the soundtrack and listening to it, and there was just so many really great songs on it.
Oh, man. They had the Higher Ground, the song Higher Ground playing while they were doing the skydiving sequence.
Yep.
Oh, so good. I love that. I still don't have the inclination to go skydiving, though. It looks terrifying as all heck. But I really love that intro sequence. Second, and fact, when Dino Thunder came out, I was actually living in California, and I got to actually study at Jason David Frank's karate school.
Oh my goodness.
Rising Sun Academy. I was only there for a month because scheduling and things didn't work out, but I did actually get to do a intro session with him one time. So I learned a few moves from Jason David Frank.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so between Lightspeed Rescue and Dino Thunder, what actually stood out to me? There's people are very opinionated in fandoms. That is nothing new. And I remember having some very distinct opinions about certain Power Rangers series that weren't necessarily shared by other people. For instance, Power Rangers Time Force. So, everybody thought it was the coolest thing, the idea of time travel and everything, Rangers from the future. Mm-hmm. That's great. And that series stood out to me having a female-led team, which was really cool. I mean, I don't think it was brought enough attention, but at the same time, it's one of those series where for me, I don't know, it didn't connect with me the same way Lightspeed Rescue had previously. So, I don't know, it wasn't something I was compelled to really follow religiously.
Right.
So, for me, I have that kind of unpopular opinion about Power Rangers Time Force, because it's one of those seasons that everyone seemed to love, but it just didn't connect with me. Power Rangers Wild Force was when I believe Disney got a hold of Power Rangers for a while. I kind of I think because it was moved to ABC Kids, I didn't get to catch it every week. It would get preempted or whatever. For whatever reason, I didn't get to catch all of the episodes, and I was kind of mad about that. Mm-hmm. But that was also kind of a miss for me. I watched it when I could. I was also a sophomore in high school, or a junior, somewhere in that era, so I was kind of I kind of just watched it. As you did when you were in high school, you kind of were just I'm too busy for that, but I'll watch it when I can. Yeah. So when I was in high school, I think the only Power Rangers series that I really watched between Lightspeed Rescue and Dino Thunder was actually Power Rangers Ninja Storm. Let's talk about a show that is self-aware and hilarious. Because if I recall correctly, they actually referred to, I think they refer to Power Rangers as being in comics or something, and it's just this really, really funny, in-universe reference to them, to the Power Rangers franchise, but also they go to a ninja school and they become Power Rangers, and it was the most humorous thing. And while Power Rangers Ninja Storm had some level of character development. I think that it was also just really entertaining and funny. So I just really enjoyed kind of that combination of humorous takes on being a Power Ranger, but also having these characters that develop. It was also the first time I'd seen a male Yellow Ranger, which I thought was like, whoa, that's cool. And a female Blue Ranger, so I was like, you know, breaking the color stereotypes or whatever. Because they also had the team of 3 expanded to 4, and then 2 other guys coming in. So it wasn't the same formula as, hey, there's a team of 5 and then the 6th guy comes in.
Right.
So that I thought was very interesting. Anything that kind of breaks the formula a little bit. Definitely hits a certain way with me. I'm just like, I remember that because that was different. So that's kind of where I was in terms of Power Rangers consumption. Let me see. What else? I don't know that I had any strong opinions about Power Rangers SPD. They were essentially like, space cops? And,
right.
You know, it was one of those things where it was just kind of like, that's cool. I didn't really connect with that, but, I think it was kind of like taking the idea of like public servants, like Lightspeed Rescue, and then, I don't know, mashing it up with the whole like police aspect of Time Force, and I don't know, it was like futuristic space cops, and I was just not feeling it. I did watch it on and off. It was one of those, you know, I'll pass on that sort of situations. Let me see. There are 2 Power Ranger seasons I found in the fandom that often get a really bad, they get a really bad reaction. And it's Power Rangers Mystic Force and Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. Particularly Power Rangers, Operation Overdrive. Operation Overdrive was not at all well received. And I think the writing on Operation Overdrive was just not good, honestly. It was definitely one of those seasons where I did watch it a little bit, but I was not sad about missing that. Power Rangers Mystic Force had a really cool theme. I think the problem was the story that they had with their Red Ranger that season. It was very Red Ranger focused, you know? And I think that really put a lot of people off, especially because I think his character was a little bland and kind of cardboard. It was just a very flat character. So if you're going to focus your storytelling on a character, you know, the writing has to be compelling. And I think that particular season could have been much better. I definitely watched it though, and I definitely like the idea of combining, you know, like the idea of the Ranger powers with magic. And it was a really cool concept that I think had they written it better, it would have been so much better to execute, right? I think that maybe if they had shifted it to more of a team story as opposed to, oh, this new guy in town, there's this whole mystery around him, you know, especially if it's going to be a poorly written sort of story arc for him. In my opinion, I think that's where they fell short. Although I will say that Mystic Force is way more watchable than Operation Overdrive. It's a shame, though, because I like the idea of having a android character becoming a ranger. They just, they missed on so many levels. I would like to, oh, God. Everyone I've talked to about Power Rangers Jungle Fury has been a fan. I unfortunately missed like 90% of that. I've seen a few episodes, and a lot of people are like super into RJ as like a 6th Ranger character, like extra Ranger character that they have in that season.
Mm-hmm.
I never got around to going and like watching the season after the fact. So I cannot speak to that. Yeah. I do have to say, if there was one season they did right when Power Rangers was owned by Disney, it was Power Rangers RPM.
Okay.
I love Power Rangers RPM. And the execution of that whole, like, evil virus, and then, kind of the, apocalyptic vibe of the world, you know, like, the world is ending, a virus is gonna end everything. Like, that whole narrative of, like, basically this virus, ending the world through, you know, technology, and, this one force field protected city, you know, was where all the survivors are. Right. And it was just kind of, it was a really cool vibe and a really cool story. I think that, out of that Disney era, they did something right with Power Rangers RPM. There's a whole other era of Power Rangers after Disney that I would like to speak about. I just looked at the time and I was like, oh shit, I've been talking a long time. But you asked me to talk about Power Rangers. There's quite a bit to cover in terms of my own personal experience and opinions.
That is A-okay. It is all right.
I will give you the kind of shortened version, I guess. I will try to give you the shortened version of the second Saban era, I guess. I would call it the second Saban era. I was actually really, really surprised when I had read that, Disney had sold Power Rangers back to the Saban company, which I thought was really cool. I didn't really know about the business side of it. So, I mean, the general reaction I remember was, hey, Power Rangers is gonna be good again, maybe. I mean, there's definitely different opinions about whether it actually became good again. I watched, Power Rangers Samurai, which I thought was cool, but I was also kind of like, I don't know about this. So I did watch it, just, I don't have any strong feelings about it. Power Rangers Megaforce, if I recall correctly, was supposed to be, the anniversary season, I think, for like the 20th anniversary. Yeah. Power Rangers Megaforce was the 20th anniversary series, right? And, this one I was intrigued about, because I was like, 20th anniversary, what's up with that? What are they going to do with it? And the Sentai series that they chose to adapt had the keys where you could transform into whichever ranger the key represented, which I thought was really cool. They were like callbacks to these other incarnations, right?
Yeah.
So, I thought that was really interesting. I thought the characters weren't, I don't know, like, they didn't, I've said this before, but, you know, for me, it's about the characters, you know, they have to connect with me, I have to connect with them, and, I don't know, I'm always gonna, like, look at each Ranger series as it comes and say, like, do I feel drawn to these characters? And I think Power Rangers Megaforce could have been a great season for a 20th anniversary callback. For me, it was the kind of thing where I was just like, yeah, this is okay. It didn't excite me in any particular way. They did have a really great Yellow Ranger that season, Gia, who was a total badass. But in general, you know, it's one of those things as I think maybe it's just me getting older. Like, the Power Rangers itself, just the whole series, the whole franchise just hits very differently for me. I'm a little bummed out that I can't speak to the later series, because I don't think I saw Dino Charge that much, or Ninja Steel, which I was told have some really great characters in it. What I did watch recently was Power Rangers Beast Morphers. Back when Beast Morphers was still on Netflix, I watched the entire series, and I really enjoyed the writing on Power Rangers Beast Morphers. And there was something really cool about the way they kind of call back to the history of Power Rangers. You know, the idea that they could, in fact, use technology to access the grid and then come back and there's like an original Ranger from 26 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, there was something really cool about that. And the concept of grid battle force, really kind of, I guess, tying together the history of Power Rangers and the concept of the morphing grid into something that actually works in universe, and it's not just this theoretical concept. You know what I mean? And, that they use animal DNA to power the Rangers, that's just wild to me. I would say in recent years, like, I think Power Rangers Beast Morphers is a good watch, like, for what it's worth. I'm also, like, a fully grown adult, so there's different things about Power Rangers that, hit differently for me, and, you know, I'm gonna be looking for more, like, characters, more compelling characters to watch. But I also just like the idea of a secret agency in the future that ties all that history in, but also experiments with DNA, animal DNA. I was just like, that is amazing. Sign me up for that program. And the thing is, if you watch that series, it's not a perfect science, right? So their powers they essentially have, like, this, I don't know if you can even call it a glitch. It's a flaw in their abilities where, you know, I forget what they are, but they're really funny because, you know, the super speedy one has to constantly eat, or, you know, the super strong one gets distracted by, I can't remember. It's really good. It's just really good. I just wish I could remember it. But essentially, the Rangers get shot up with a specific animal DNA, and then based on that animal DNA, their Ranger powers essentially have a flaw in them. So, you know, the idea that being a Power Ranger and perfecting these powers is not a perfect science is actually a great concept to me.
Right.
And then they have their beast bots, their companions. They have robot companions, and yeah, it's a good series for me, which I didn't expect to be able to say there's a good Power Ranger series now into my adulthood. You know, I'm like, I am way too old for this, but I'm gonna watch it anyway because nostalgia. And then It's like, oh, hey, I'm actually enjoying this.
And that's all that you can ask for, is that you continue to enjoy it, and it's not anything where you need to have like serious focus on it and be like, okay, I need to focus for the next 45 minutes on this show. It's more of a, well, I can throw it on, and it's not something where you have to be paying attention all the time or completely focused on like the plot line. Like, it's just something fun.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes when there is a mass of people that congregate towards a fandom, sometimes they forget that the whole point of having a fandom is because you enjoy the thing and the thing is fun. Sometimes there are people within fandoms that take things too darn seriously.
Yup.
Right? And I've seen that even in my early forays into the digital fandom of Power Rangers, where I've seen it, and I'm just like, y'all need to chill, because y'all have forgotten that Power Rangers is supposed to be a fun thing, Like, chill.
Exactly.
Which is interesting, too, because there's a very recent, very new thing that has that intersection of TTRPGs and Power Rangers, that I super love. For what it's worth, when Renegade Game Studios released their Essence 20 game, their Power Rangers RPG core rulebook, which incidentally, they're also going to do for G.I. Joe and Transformers. So all of your 80s fandoms are also being hit by this TTRPG treatment, So it's exciting. I never thought I'd see a day where I could pick up a TTRPG and be like, I'm going to be a Power Ranger. So, hey, segue. I mean, if we want to go there.
So, and that's one of the things that was always surprising to me is when, because you mentioned the Power Rangers RPG, is I never saw anything about it until like Facebook ads, right? So like I'm on Facebook and I'm like, what are these ads for like the G.I. Joe and the Power Ranger one? I was like, these got to be fake, right? These got to be fake, because I don't see anything published like on Twitter about them. And then I go to the website and sure enough, they're real. But segueing to tabletop role-playing games, my first and obvious question is like, how did you first get into tabletop role-playing? Like, where did you get your start, and why were you drawn to it?
So, it's going to be one of those things that I am a little bit shy about admitting to people at first, because it's one of those things where in the wrong circles you get labeled as a fake geek girl. But I actually, in college, I'd always been a very nerdy, geeky kid, but I didn't actually, I guess, come into my full geekiness, my full nerddom until college. And one of the things I wanted to do was like, I wanted to have social things that didn't just involve me talking, because I talk too much. I'm too much of a personality, you know, like, whoa, people are just not going to want to talk to me because I'm too much, right? So I wanted to learn activities, learn things to interact with people, but also kind of, I don't know, have a way to interact with people that isn't just me talking all the time. So one of the things I had done was I'd learned to play Magic the Gathering from a friend of mine as a freshman in college. As you do. Like, there's a whole club and you guys play? And my buddy Sean was like, yeah, here, let me teach you how to play. And, so there was a gathering of nerds. Gathering of nerds playing Magic the Gathering, and I was like, I'm gonna meet up with you guys and learn to play this game. And literally coming into the student lounge area, I got sidetracked by a table with a pile of books and, you know, other people, including this really cute guy. I was like, And like, there's a table of cute nerds, and I would be one of two girls. I'm like, I like these odds for me. Maybe I'll go talk to these guys. So I actually learned about Dungeons and Dragons because I wanted to impress a cute guy. I mean, you know, spoiler alert, he was a total jerk. I ended up playing in a campaign with him, first edition Pathfinder. Yeah. No longer a fan of that guy, but, so the initial motivation may have been to impress a cute guy, but I think it wasn't until I found a 5th edition group to play with that I really started to get into the, storytelling aspects. And I can't even recall which group it was, but my boyfriend at the time had decided that he wanted to DM, and I had connected with a bunch of people through Critical Role, funny enough, in the critter community, and we had started playing 5th edition D&D together, and that's when I truly fell in love with the storytelling aspect of it. Yeah, the idea of just collaborating, being heroes together, that's my favorite part.
It's always cool to like hear the stories, because you're not the only story that I've heard about, like, you know, especially like women in gaming that join or try out tabletop role playing to like impress somebody, and then they leave that person behind and they're like, I got the gaming, I got it, it's mine. Like,
yeah, I guess it's really not that weird of an experience. After college, I met a guy who's super into tabletop RPGs and LARPing, so it worked out okay for me in the end.
exactly. So with you getting into like tabletop role playing, you've been playing for, you know, D&D 5th edition's been out for a little bit now. Do you just tend to stick to that game, or have you expanded beyond Dungeons and Dragons and not moved on, I should say, but, you know, experienced and played other games?
So here's what I'm going to say about this particular topic. I like to be open-minded with my experiences. And for me, I love learning new games. And I think it's because it's a direct result of my inner circle of friends being board gamers and collecting. Well, two of my friends collect the most complex, like, strategic board games. So for me, I'm just used to trying to learn complicated rule sets about board games on a regular basis, because they always have new games, more complicated things, and they're just... I love my friends, Cassie and Jared. They have great games. They have a whole room full of just their board game collection. It's a little bit wild. So for me, when people say, oh, like, I don't want to learn a new rule set, I just want to stick to 5e, I'm kind of just like, it doesn't bother me.
Right.
I'm willing to try anything, genuinely. Although I will say I have pretty much canceled Pathfinder. I'm like, no thank you. I don't want to do that much crunch.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, I'll play it if someone really wants me to. Like, you know, like, I know first edition Pathfinder, it's a little intense. I haven't tried second edition. I've been told that it does streamline things. But it still has the same customization. I will say Pathfinder, the kind of default setting of Pathfinder, I love Golarion as a setting. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, like, they've done some really cool world building there, so I might be convinced to revisit Pathfinder, maybe in second edition at some point. I don't know. But, I have amassed a variety of different experiences. Mostly in 5e. There's a lot of that. But I have fallen in love with the, Kids on Bikes system and that whole line, Kids on Brooms, Teens in Space, which I have yet to try out, but I've read the rulebook. So cool. I have nothing but love for that, how intuitive that system is. Mm-hmm. It has some level of customization, and it's easy to kind of customize it yourself, you know, and create your own homebrewed stuff around the mechanics of mm-hmm. Kids on Bikes, you know, like the polyhedral array and the adversity tokens, which I love, because then I always tell the players that I run for, because I run Kids on Bikes primarily. I'm about to run 5th edition D&D for 2 of my friends, but my game of choice to run, the game that I'm most comfortable running, is actually Kids on Bikes. And anything with that core system, because it's not that hard to learn, and the players are not intimidated by it. And as a GM, you can come up with customizations for it, you know?
Right.
And for me, it's just intuitive to tell a story that way, because it's very narrative based. Your players get to put things in the world, and the world building is 100% a team effort. And the thing, I did something really fun, because one of my favorite games of the last, like, year, maybe 2 years, is Alice is Missing.
I've heard so many good things about that, and I've not been able to, like, look at it or just see it played yet, but that's a fingers crossed. I hope to catch it sometime.
Listen, I can send you links of this game being played. We'll talk about that later. But Alice is Missing is intended to be a one-shot experience, right? You can play it over and over, and it will play differently each time. But essentially, the story ends at the end of the game. And, Spencer Stark, name drop, love what he did with Alice is Missing. Because if there's one thing I love about role-playing, is when a story makes me feel something.
Mm-hmm.
So if my character is going through something, I enjoy that intense emotional catharsis of, embodying that character and living through whatever emotions they're living through.
Right.
So, playing a game in 3 or 4 hours, doing the world building and playing 90 minutes of just looking for your friend Alice, and then, getting to the end and the randomized ending, and you're like, it was a really, really profound experience for me. And I have a friend named Lauren who, actually gifted me the game Alice is Missing on Roll20 for my birthday a year ago. And we played this game as part of my birthday celebrations leading up to my birthday. It was my very first game that I ever facilitated. I made a few mistakes. Things were a little rough, but there was something about the character building that we made and the world building that we made and that particular story that we told that made me want to continue the story. Like, this can't be the last we've heard of these characters.
Yeah.
And after that game, I played the game 14 more times, and none of these other times ever made me feel like the first time. So what I did was, I went back to my friends who played this first game of Alice is Missing with me. I said, so, what if I told you guys that the story you told with me wasn't over? And they're like, what? How would you guys feel about continuing the story of these characters that we played during Alice is Missing? How would you guys feel if we just put them in a Kids on Bikes campaign?
Right.
Yeah, no. And then there were some things we had to change, like Izzy's character. It just didn't make sense for Izzy's character to be in the campaign. So then I talked to Izzy, and I looked at them and I was like, hey, Alice isn't missing anymore. Why don't you just play Alice in this campaign? So the reason I learned to GM Kids on Bikes was because I did not want to let go of the characters that we'd played. And I think it was also that particular group of friends,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do on a bi-weekly basis. I'm also, as of this recording, getting ready to play a different kind of game. I don't know if you've heard of Good Society.
I have.
Which is, no dice, completely narrative. And it plays with the exchange of resolve tokens and a bit of negotiation. And I'm getting ready to tell a Jane Austen-esque story in the Regency era without all of the grossness of, sexism and all of that. That icky stuff. So essentially, as a group, we decided to remove, all of that stuff. So the power structures and all of that weird stuff doesn't exist in our game. But there will be all sorts of Jane Austen-esque drama involved. Social climbing and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I actually saw the form to join the game, and I want to give a shout out to the Critical Misses channel. They have always done they've always put out some really great content, and I was just like, I've never played Good Society before. It might just be daring to try a new game on a stream for the first time. I'd heard a lot of things about the system in terms of how it facilitates a focus on the narrative, and I was like, this is cool. I want to tell a story with this system too. You know? Great. So I jumped at an opportunity and I got lucky and I got selected. So, yeah. I mean, most of my experience, admittedly, has been in 5th edition, but I will never say no to trying a new system. I want to learn games like Masks, Monster of the Week, I'm willing to try those. And, I recently played a game called Idol, which is powered by Lumen. I don't know if you're familiar with the Lumen system.
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's a D6. It's 1d6.
Okay.
And it's really simple, but it was a really fun time. And, I will take the time to learn a system. There is a certain level of complexity where I'll just look at it and I'm like, no. But, for the most part, I am open to many different experiences. And, I'm always curious about how, game designers approach, creating their games, especially if they're using the Powered by the Apocalypse system to, create their games, because I always love me a good Powered by the Apocalypse game. Honestly, I will take Powered by the Apocalypse in all sorts of flavors. Because, my first kind of exposure with a Powered by the Apocalypse game is actually the Worldwide Wrestling RPG. And I found this because I had seen an actual play of it somewhere. I couldn't tell you, but I was like, you know what? They're actually right when they say pro wrestling is like a LARP or like a TTRPG. It's so true. And I recognize the fact that the mechanics, they have each of the wrestling gimmicks as essentially like a playbook, and I'm like, oh, this game's basically Powered by the Apocalypse. Cool, I want to try this. Still looking for people to play with, but I think it would be fun to kind of emulate a pro wrestling environment and play that out. Yeah. I genuinely feel like there's, for me personally, like, as long as it's not super crunchy, I'll try it at least once,
Absolutely. And yeah, I had a friend had told me about the Worldwide Wrestling game, and it's something, again, I've seen the book, at least on this one. I've seen the book, and it's like, dang, I'd love to play this, or I'd love if someone had created a whole almost like federation where they have different players come in, and they have a Monday night show or a Thursday night show, and then just rotate and have different things leading up to a WrestleMania type thing. That would be something that would be a lot of fun.
It's definitely something that I've been I have it in my big book of ideas. So I mean, it's things that I want to do. It's just trying to figure out how to make everything happen. It's a difficult situation these days, because everyone's trying to, I guess, monetize their hobby.
Right.
I guess that's the best way to put it. And it would be nice if I could monetize my hobby, but like, the thing that I've struggled with the most in the last 2-3 years is that feeling where I have felt like I can't just ask people to hang out and play this game for me anymore, because it feels like, it almost feels like I have to go through a casting process and have the money to pay people for their time, like, it almost feels like gone are the days where I can just be like, who's free to do this thing on Twitter, right? Like, because everyone's in this position where they feel like they have to monetize their hobbies.
Right.
Which
pay people for their time and everything else as well.
I mean, I would love to pay people for their time. I would love to create an engine where people can show up and I can give them money to show up, but it's challenging for me to get my content creation journey off the ground, because I just want to tell stories. The only reason I want to monetize my hobby is to get my family off my ass, to be honest. You know what I mean? If I could just... honestly, if I could just play, that's really the ideal,
Right. Now, with regards to like the games that you play, just out of curiosity, is there like a character type that you are more often like playing? Because normally, like if I was talking to someone that just played D&D, I'd like ask, oh well, what class do you like to play, or what ancestry do you like to play? But since you play a wide variety, like, is there a character type that you lean more towards to?
I mean, that entirely depends on the game. Right. In a game like Good Society, where everything is about talking your way through things, and because it's the first time I've ever had the opportunity to play the game, I kind of went for a more, like, social character that's like, I'm going to throw the parties, and I'm going to be the life of the party. Everything's going to happen around me.
Yeah.
But in cases like D&D, where there's specific archetypes, specific classes, there are games where that's not really a question, because like on Kids on Bikes, there's not really categories or anything. You can just be whatever. So
yeah.
But I guess if you want to know what type of D&D character I usually play, I had to admit, I really, really like playing high charisma characters.
Okay.
I like playing charisma casters. Bards are my favorite class. But no, I've never played a bard who was attempted to seduce a dragon. But I like being able to talk my way out of things sometimes. It's really fun. And I like the option of course, trying to role play it out, but also like, okay, you can make a check and we'll figure it out from there. Because sometimes I'm not as good of a talker as my character.
Exactly. That's always my thing is they'd be like, okay, well, what are you going to say? And it's like, oh gosh, like, can't I just roll for it?
I mean, I've had DMs who were like, role play it out, and they were much more about your RP. Like, they were militant about it, but it was only because they were trying really hard to encourage you to stay in your character.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Alex was a great DM, but he was also, like, very about the RP, so he really wasn't great at saying, okay, I'll just let you roll for it this time. He is, a great DM. I have great memories of playing with him, though. It's just that particular bit. But I strive to be the kind of DM that's flexible. I will definitely encourage RP first, but, if the player's like, I don't know, I'll just give it to them, because, hey, if you have the numbers to support it, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny you that.
Now, what's out of curiosity, because there's so many role-playing games out there nowadays, what's a game that you haven't played that you would love to play?
Well, I would love to get people together for the Worldwide Wrestling RPG any day. Like, I would love that. That would be so much fun. I would also love to try to get a group together for some Fantasy Age, which is the the stripped down rule set of the Dragon Age RPG.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the Titan's Grave actual play back in the day when Will Wheaton did the thing.
Yeah.
So I love how elegant the system is, and I have the Titan's Grave book and all of that stuff. So, I mean, I never got anyone to play it with me. Hey, I'm always down for a Power Rangers RPG group. Always. If you want to talk about that whole full circle thing, it all interconnects in my fandoms, that would be great. Those are the ones that speak to me off the top of my head. I would love to play some Star Trek Adventures too.
Mm-hmm.
I love the 2D20 system that Modiphius has, which I think it's cool that lower rolls tend to succeed instead of the higher rolls, doing it differently. I love that. Yeah, I also would like to play some, what is that game? I'd love to play, I can't pronounce the name of the game. It's a really cool game that has sign language in it. Inspirals? I can't pronounce the game. I can't pronounce the name. I think, too, part of that question is also just, who's inviting me to play? Because if I have someone I highly respect and adore invite me to try this thing out, I will try the thing out. Or I will say, the rules are too hard, my brain hurts. But, I will take an honest look at the rules before I do that. And, I've played Pathfinder 1st edition, so anything more complicated than that is a good gauge of where I might say no.
Gotcha.
But in general, I'm very open to new experiences, and the thing that bothers me when it comes to people arguing about their game, or arguing against one specific game, or how that discourse goes.
Mm-hmm.
There is a fundamental assumption that people are not going to want to try something new. And it's a very... I don't know, it's a very unfair statement or a very unfair blanket statement to make. Of course, there are people who are like, yep, nope, 5th edition or bust. And
right.
Those people are a thing. They exist, sure. But I don't know. I just don't think that the assumption that people aren't willing to try something new is a little bit unfair in, those kinds of discussions. Mm-hmm. And I think that I think that as hard as it is to avoid arguing against something,
Mm-hmm.
we should be arguing for the games we are passionate about. We should be selling the things that mean something to us. And honestly, like, I can't be the only one who enjoys playing 5th edition, but primarily runs a different game or is passionate about other games, you know? Like, I refuse to believe that, you know, that blanket statement of people aren't willing to learn anything outside of 5th edition applies. You know,
Right.
like, I will continue to push the things that I support instead of, like, falling into that, you know, black hole of arguing against something.
Right. I get that. Now, with I know that we talked about before we started recording, but you had been working on the Bardic Inspiration Network. Would you like to talk about that?
So, the Bardic Inspiration Network is something that I thought about while I was going through a very difficult time roughly 9 months ago? 9 months ago now. And I had initially wanted to do variety streaming. I was in the Philippines at that point, and I had actually thought about streaming Tetris and becoming a professional Tetris player.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work out so much for me. I still play Tetris. I hope to potentially become competitive in modern Tetris. But I had decided that I wanted to stream TTRPGs instead.
Okay.
And I was feeling really lonely and just wanted to put some stories out there that I thought were super fun. And so I decided that I wasn't going to just stream it on my own channel. And I decided to come up with this whole concept of a brand, because that's what people do online, right? The branding. It's a big deal. But I looked at myself to start off to create what I thought would be a great brand. And I said, what is it that well, first of all, I really enjoy bards in 5e. So I was like, that made sense to me. Like, I'm a bard. What do bards do? They inspire. What do bards do? They tell stories. Hey, I can get behind this. And, when I looked at bards in that perspective, I was like, there are others like me who like to tell stories. And one of the things I like to do on Twitter is bring people together. So I was like, network. Network of bards. Sure, we can work with this. So I kind of was like, Bardic Inspiration, because I like to, you know, encourage and inspire. So I was like, okay. So I kind of was like, that's the brand we're going with. It's taken forever to organize things. I am hoping to have a Kids on Bikes horror-themed game streaming. We're still in major preparations for that. But we're working on scheduling things. So, and it's great. Our first actual play is actually going to be a Kids on Bikes campaign, which I am very excited about. And for me, I wanted to give a platform to unique storytellers, different storytellers, people who may not have as big of a platform as I do. My
Right.
personal platform is, I have no idea where all my followers came from, to be honest with you. But, over the last 3 or 4 years, I've somehow amassed a following. So I wanted to use that to create a community where I could say, your story matters, and your story matters, and I can decide, hey, other places may not have room for you, but here, I'm gonna throw my support behind this cool new thing that you're doing because no one else is doing it, and you should have a space to do it. And I don't know, I wanted to build a community that was like a community of storytellers, and I wanted to give the community this accepting and safe feeling. And I'm still working on that, but I'm hoping that we'll come out with some really great stuff soon.
Okay, awesome. Now, for people that have listened and they want to follow you out there on the social medias, where should they go to check you out, to check out your work, to check out, what you're doing or what you're commenting or writing about?
My personal Twitter account is XO_GirlWonder. For updates on the Bardic Inspiration Network, you can go to @TheBard Network, and we will be posting some updates there. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with that Twitter account, but updates will go there. And our Twitch channel is twitch.tv/Bardic Inspiration Network.
Okay, awesome. And I'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes and on the Facebook page and website, so that way if you're interested in following Anne or the Bardic Inspiration Network, you can do so just by clicking on the links in there. And Anne, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come and hang out with me and talk to me about Power Rangers and tabletop role-playing games, because it's very rare when I get to talk about Power Rangers with somebody, and so it's always a fun time getting to listen about people's experiences with that fandom. And of course, tabletop role-playing, everyone has their own story to tell.
Hey, I'm into that. I'm into that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.